Within a Jungian perspective, we're more vessels for archetypal processes than just discrete, unique individuals, which means we all have common themes that we're sharing. And one of them is going through this arc of your life from maiden to mother to crone. And in this, the maiden archetype is disconnected from her inner masculine, which results in this idealized animus. So it's this spiritual projection of the masculine other that she places on to actual men. Men are expected to embody this ideal, but when they inevitably fail to meet those projections, the feminine attempts to contort herself to meet their desires, to be what they want. In a way, this is like a geisha archetype, right? She exists entirely to enhance the man's experience. She's using all the gifts of her feminine awareness and observation to do an X-ray reading of him and then make herself the exact feminine that would bring him the most pleasure. Then the anger arises when men fall short of her ideal, when that doesn't work out. It's like a sacred anger. But this anger is a reflection of the spiritual wound. It's because these men are not fulfilling the ideal that becomes the catalyst for her spiritual awakening. It is the call to initiate the next phase of her maturation. And it's that very frustration that is the spiritual wound that prompts the feminine to go inwards and initiate this journey of self-encounter. And in this way, it mirrors the myth of Persephone. So Persephone was abducted to the underworld where she became an agent of death. Initially, she was this figure of innocence. She was the daughter of Diana. She brought forth the spring. It's that maiden energy who just blooms the flowers and is that fresh new growth. But then she descends into the underworld and is sold to be a bride to Hades. And this descent symbolizes the loss of illusions. But in there, she's actually able to grow, to learn, to see death. She marries the king of the underworld. She learns to be able to see life in its raw, unvarnished form. And later on in the myth, she actually becomes the one who is the real agent of death. Hades, the king of the underworld, is very nice and mild-mannered and respectful of her in a way that a lot of the gods who exist in the major arcana are not respectful of their wives, right? You have Zeus, who's always cheating, whereas Hades is loyal to Persephone, and she actually rises to become this empowered queen. And as she begins to see men and the world as they truly are, it's almost as if this is what brings her into the sense of her own sovereignty. And so her anger becomes not that men aren't fulfilling the idealized image of her animus, but that she's actually seeing men for who they are. And her anger becomes a sacred anger that is then initiating them in their masculine, calling them out when they're not fulfilling who they are in their integrity. And it's from that sacred anger that she transforms, from being a passive figure of victimhood to one of active agency. She brings death not only to external illusions, but also to these outdated parts of herself. And this process of maturation is reflected in this feminine journey of decentering men. Because when men start failing you in the physical world, it is the call of initiation to stop projecting the idealized masculine and to begin integrating your inner masculine, your inner animus within. And it's also about changing the locus of where you're going to find your spiritual relationship with that divine beloved other, from just real men to the divine itself. That instead of spiritualizing your romantic relationships and being absolutely heartbroken when they reveal themselves to be mere mortals, it's this double ability to, on the one hand, have very clear standards for the men who you engage with and very clear sense of your self-worth, and making sure that you're not overstepping your boundaries and your what's authentic for you to give, and engaging in relationships that actually nourish and support and recognize you, right? No fucking bullshit, cut the dumb shit. But that you're also able to detangle your spiritual process so that it's grounded in your own self-reliance and your own authenticity, so that you can align with the spiritual masculine and become an authentic seeker on a path of real devotion with the divine, grounded in your own sacred truth. So then, like Persephone, as she finds empowerment, she lives half the year in the underworld and half the year above ground. So half the year, I imagine that being, one, again, calling out that bullshit, right? But also facing your own shadow. Also doing this inner work of individuation and wholeness, and then able to bring those gifts forward into the world from a place of greater self-reliance and maturation, and then also able to engage with everyone in your life and all the plants and animals too, from that more integrated place, calling out the bullshit, grounded in your spiritual path.